Hi, hello, and welcome. This is Maya with Sisters Wellspring, and I'm thrilled to be talking to Chaweon Koo this evening. This woman is extraordinary. She's a visionary, and she knows how to implement her vision and dreams. I consider her to be a powerful manifester and a creatrix. And today we'll be talking about the magic of quantum computing, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the metaverse. So I've discovered Chaweon through Jocelyn Mercado's interview of Rachel Capurso. And Jocelyn's one of my mentors, and Rachel Capurso is an awesome astrologer. And it is Rachel's work that led me to Chaweon's YouTube channel of Witches and Wine, and the link to it is listed below this video. So welcome, Chaweon.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you for such a nice introduction.
I truly, honestly believe so. And the world is full of interesting and extraordinary women who are kind of not well known and need to be more so. So, Chaweon, would you tell me more about yourself and how you've discovered the fascinating world of crypto and what it means to you?
I love that question to begin with. And I would say that my journey to crypto, like my journey into the occult, my journey into YouTube, my journey into everything, crypto has also been, like all those things, a very, I don't want to say accidental, but it wasn't something that I had a plan or any sort of real like motivation to do. It was just something I kind of fell into simply because. So in terms of the crypto, what happened was I was on somebody else's podcast, and this is Marseille Butler's podcast. And, she and I were just vibing and talking, and she told me about this app called Clubhouse. And Clubhouse, the app is dying down right now, but back in and I don't know when this video is going to come out, but back in early 2021, late 2020, this app, which was invite only for people who had iPhones, this app was super hot. And all the really cutting edge tech people were in it because it was invite only and it was only iPhones. And I got an invite and I went in and I started noticing that in the app, there were all these rooms that were just talking about these things called NFTs. And I was like, by the way, can I curse?
Oh, yes. I'm going to make a disclaimer when I send it out, whoever has kids, just put on headphones and please.
Okay, good, because I curse and sorry guys, but it just comes out. I can't even help it. So as I was, yeah, exactly. This is just who I am. I'm sorry. But so I was scrolling through and I was just like, what the fuck are NFTs, right? Because to me, it was just whatever. Somebody might as well just put up something like, I don't know, GYS. Like what does that even mean? And so finally, after 2 weeks of being on Clubhouse, getting addicted to Clubhouse, the app, because you could go into all these different rooms and hear some of the biggest tech names just talking off the cuff. It's like podcasts that are not edited, completely live. So finally, I was just like, you know what? I need to know what NFTs are because every single room is an NFT room. And this was back in February or March of 2021. Mm-hmm. So earlier this year. And so I finally went into a room, and for the next 1 or 2 weeks, I didn't understand a single word anyone in those rooms said, not a single word. And yet I still felt as though I had to stay and I had to listen. And, they would drop little sort of oh, here's this website. And there was this project going on where it was sort of like a pizza NFT project. And I was like, is this about food? And so, it was very confusing. But finally, after about a week, 2 weeks, it's almost as if, in those movies where somebody's kidnapped by a different civilization. And then after a while, the alien language becomes they start to understand it. It became kind of like that. And then finally, when I sort of kind of a little bit understood, I was like, you know what? I need to make an NFT because I will never truly understand it unless I make an NFT. And I didn't do anything about crypto. I didn't know what cryptocurrency was, right? Mm-hmm. I had vaguely heard about Ethereum, the blockchain, simply because people were talking about how all these families in Korea, South Korea were going broke, putting all their money into buying ETH. Yeah, so that's all I knew. So I was just like, you know what? I didn't have any crypto. I didn't have anything, right? So somehow I figured out a way to basically get an OpenSea account, because that's what all the NFT artists were like using. And I just happened to get really lucky, because when I put up my NFTs, I made 4 NFTs. When I put up my NFTs, that's when there was a huge push of NFTs into the mainstream, which was earlier this year. And I think it's because of Clubhouse. So I got lucky. Eventually, all my NFTs, I was able to sell them. And finally, I got crypto. And I was like, oh, now that I have ETH, what the fuck am I going to do with it, right?
Oh,
I was like, this is
fascinating. Yeah, I didn't
right?
know that you went into, I knew you made some NFTs, and I was totally going to ask you about it, but I didn't know that was your first step in, like, this is how you got crypto. That's crazy.
I didn't buy ETH. I didn't buy crypto.
About like non-fungible tokens for people who don't know what it is. Like, can you just?
Yes. So I'm going to assume that me back in January 2021 is like part of the audience out there, right? So NFTs are, it stands for non-fungible tokens. And that's just a fancy way of saying the code on a blockchain. So in a way, I need to kind of start from the beginning. And I'm sorry that I'm going to make this very reductive and oversimplified. But when I talk about things like blockchain, people are just like, what is that, right? And the thing is, the blockchain is a type of technology where, imagine that you have a computer. Obviously, you're watching this on a computer. And there's an app that you download, a program that you download, the software. And the software for many of these cryptocurrencies, and it literally is kind of like a software, Ethereum, Bitcoin, these are all software that anyone with a computer, even like a slow old computer, can download that program called Bitcoin, called Ethereum, and run it on their computer. And their computer serves, and your computer serves as sort of like a server. Like anytime somebody makes a transaction, depending on how your computer is set up, you and thousands of other computers all around the world, in Sweden, in China, in South Korea, in Egypt, they're all recording the same information. So it's like a duplicate of a duplicate of a duplicate. So each information bit is called like a block, and it's chained together. So let's say like somebody made a transaction on Ethereum, and then there's a block of information, right? Then it's chained together to the next block of information. And the reason why they do that is because people are just like, you know what? I don't know the person in China. I don't know the person in Sweden. How can I make sure no one's going to screw me over if I make a transaction? And it was like, oh, let's make it so that every single block of information is chained to the next one and the next one. And if anybody tries to go back and mess around with previous blocks, it's just basically going to go haywire. So in a lot of ways, when you think about blockchain, just think about it as just a bunch of computers all around the world of people who don't know each other recording the same information. And the information is who's doing what. So it's peer-to-peer, but it's very, in a lot of ways, transparent, because maybe it's not your name. It's not like Chaweon Koo is like at this address and it's like very obvious, but I have an address, I have a wallet. And depending on the blockchain, different blockchains have different wallet addresses. So as long as you know my wallet address, you know who I am. Like everybody knows Vitalik Buterin's wallet address. So you can see like on every computer that has Ethereum downloaded as a program on their computer, like every single transaction that goes on. But instead of one bank or one government holding all that information, it's just a bunch of people peer-to-peer all over the world. You, me, bunch of servers, whatever, just anyone who wants to be part of this. And that's the blockchain. So there's codes on the blockchain that says, ooh, this is currency. And currency means like the $1 that's in my PayPal account, the $1 in cash that I have in my wallet, and the $1 that's in the cash register at the supermarket. You can change those, right? It's not like you can go into the supermarket and be like, oh, like, can I exchange my $1 for the dollar in your register? And they're gonna be like, no, because they're not the same. They are the same. Those are fungible. Fungible means interchangeable, basically. Non-fungible tokens, it's a line in the code that basically says, this is unique. You can't just easily exchange it, right? It's almost like saying, like, if I went into like the grocery store and I was like, can I exchange $1 for this? Maybe this actually did cost $1, but you can't easily interchange it with like a actual currency. So this would be kind of like an NFT. And the code is just basically saying, alert, alert, this is not currency. This is a unique thing. it's code. So the code is pointing to something. A lot of people think, oh my God, I'm going to upload an NFT. It's going to go straight on to like Ethereum. No, it's not really like that so far. It's more that you go to a marketplace called, let's say like OpenSea. It's kind of like Amazon or Etsy, but it's called OpenSea, and they mainly deal with art, like JPEG NFTs. So you go there, let's just call it like let's just call OpenSea the Amazon of NFT marketplaces. You pay a little small transaction fee, just like Amazon. If you try to sell things through Amazon, you have to pay a transaction fee to Amazon. They take a cut. And then you list it. It's like private individuals list their stuff on Amazon and list their stuff on OpenSea. And then you sell it. But the thing is that when you sell your NFT, the person is buying kind of like a link to a place where they can download it or something like that, right? But the marketplace, OpenSea, is not Ethereum, the blockchain. It's a marketplace. So when people are having all these debates about, oh my God, NFTs are stealing your copyright and everything like that, that's kind of a misleading thing to say, because that's kind of like saying Redbubble or Amazon or Etsy is stealing your IP. They're just marketplaces. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more complicated if we talk about, is Ethereum the blockchain stealing your IP? Is Binance, Binance is an NFT. Binance happens to be like an exchange where you can buy and trade cryptocurrency, and now we have an NFT marketplace, but it's a different blockchain than Ethereum. Bitcoin is a different blockchain than Ethereum. So it's complicated in that sense, but most people who sell NFTs do it on like an open marketplace. So I hope this wasn't too complicated, but I felt as though I had to kind of over-explain it.
No, I think it is a wonderful explanation for those who are like, unaware. It's beautifully explained. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to even like interrupt you. Because you were talking about that you made 4 NFTs and you sold them, and this is how you got crypto.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about moving fast. Like you hear about something, you're about 69, 70% sure that this thing is real. And then, you could, I guess, try to get to 80, 90%. And I think a lot of people, especially women, have been brought up to believe that you need to kind of be better than, let's say, a stereotypical man to feel as though you can actually have permission. You give yourself permission only after you're like 80%, 90% sure to then go and do something. Versus I feel as though a lot of men, they've been brought up to be like, well, as long as you're kind of not going to completely fall on your face, just do it and see what happens. And so I was like, well, let's just do that. So I just kind of sort of knew enough to list my NFTs on OpenSea. And I chose OpenSea because it was the cheapest place to do it. All the other marketplaces were either more expensive or you had to get an invite. So at that time, OpenSea, it was kind of considered not as prestigious as these other NFT places. So, but I didn't care. I was just like, I'm just going to see what happens. So I did it. And then I went back on Clubhouse and I said, hi, I made some NFTs. Does anybody want to buy them? And people bought them.
It's just fascinating. This is so awesome. This is so bold. I'm so happy you did it because it's so true. And I find it in myself also. Women like, I need to get a PhD in such and such before I even open my mouth or even about this idea. And it's really ridiculous, especially now with how fast things are moving. You don't need anything to just be interested in it and just go for it. I'm not trying to make a commercial like invest right away in cryptocurrency. Please educate yourself, right? Read about it. Don't put, as you mentioned before, you're talking about Koreans like losing their money. Don't put more than you, like any other investment. You don't want to put more than you are willing to lose and not cry about. So, but really that's it, and it's happening everywhere. I just wanted to share, like, before, it's the funniest thing, like when people were talking about Bitcoin like years ago on the radio or whatever, I was listening to NPR and I'm like, and how you mine Bitcoin. I swear I thought Bitcoin was just completely in the computer game. Because I played like Warcraft, like God knows when I was like in college, it was a long time ago. But I just imagine it's just a computer game and you mine it. I didn't realize it was like digital currency. And so it took me so much later in 2020, really, like I got into it and I was like, oh, that's cool. And by the time I studied what, blockchain was, and blockchain is amazing. You explained it very well, but yeah, like that it's the fact that it's a decentralized ledger, that you don't need a central entity or government to control it, that it's open to everyone and it is immutable. No one can change this ledger because, like, as you mentioned, different computers everywhere just back check each other, kind of like, and they receive the same data and they go and they go and they go, like, as you said, in a blockchain. So by the time I did that and I researched it, and by the time I did put in any money, like, I think I lost.
Right, it surged.
Gained, yeah, like so much money, like the momentum was huge at that time. But anyway, but that's how it is. But I just entered it in such a unique way. I've never heard of anybody like saying like, oh, I made some NFTs and this is how I got crypto. It's amazing, really.
Well, I think a lot of people, a lot of business people, their biggest mistake is they make their overhead too high to begin with. So then you have to earn all that money back. And I was like, I don't know anything about crypto. And in a way, I don't care. Crypto is just a tool. It's a means to an end. So I wasn't going into cryptocurrency rooms in Clubhouse. I was going to NFT rooms. I only cared about the NFT. To me, crypto was simply the way to exchange NFTs. It was just a necessary part of it. Mm-hmm. And also, I just didn't have the money to buy, all this ETH. I didn't have all this money to buy all this Bitcoin. And there was no way I was going to be spending my own money when I didn't know anything about crypto. And it was I was lucky because I was able to get ETH and I didn't really have to worry so much, like in the beginning. It was only after about 4 or 5 months of really looking into crypto after I sold my NFTs and I had to learn about ETH. That I felt ready to actually put in my own regular cash, Right. But anybody who feels pressured and who's like totally like FOMOing and it's like, oh my God, I have to invest, even though I barely know anything. Like if my explanation about blockchain, if you couldn't completely follow along, you're not ready. Like if you don't understand why Binance is different from Bitcoin, is different from Ethereum, is different from Solana, is different from, just everything else, and if you don't have like a favorite crypto, you haven't done enough research. This is a very speculative, I can't stress this enough. Right now, it's a gamble. It's a gamble because literally 99% of all the cryptocurrency that's around right now is not going to exist in another 2-3 years.
Right.
We've seen the cycle before. So there's a very, very good chance, and I've lost money too. Like I invested in a shitcoin, and affectionately called shitcoin. It was like one of those like coins that was like a doggy coin that came after like a Dogecoin. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I put in a very, very small amount just as an experiment, and I couldn't even go onto a regular exchange. I had to go to a different, like one of those like crypto only exchanges, basically. Mm-hmm. I checked it the other day. It's basically down to zero. It's not completely gone yet, but I mean, I've lost my money. That's just what happens. That is literally just what happens. And the thing is that for me, I had to realize that I'm just not that, to be honest, I don't give a shit about crypto. Like I'm honestly not. And I read an incredible tweet a couple weeks ago, which said, everybody is like so into like crypto because it sounds like it's a get rich quick scheme. If you're going into crypto because you want to get rich quick, you're going to lose all your money because the mentality that you use to go into it, it's the mentality of a gambler. There's so many other ways to get rich quick. Personally, I haven't traded any of the ETH that I earned with my NFTs. Mm-hmm. Like I have not traded any of my ETH. I've like traded other crypto, but I haven't traded my ETH because I decided that I'm just going to hold because that was me. That was my like get rich quick scheme, which was instead of trading crypto, I'm going to create art and sell NFTs. If that's your skill to be an artist, you don't have to go into crypto. There are so many more solid ways to make money than to go into crypto. Crypto is a gamble. Like 99% of it is a gamble. And so at this point, the big crypto like ETH and Bitcoin and stuff like that, not saying that it's too late, but because all of sort of like the big investors are coming in,
The whales.
The whales, and also, like
Institutionalized investors.
Yeah, basically. So because of that, a lot of people are going to be priced out. So that's the reason why a lot of people are going into the more speculative, smaller coins, which is fine if that's in your DNA, if that's in your temperament, that's in your build. But if you're going into it because you think it's a get rich quick thing, you will get rich quick way faster by selling art on Etsy, being an Amazon dropshipper, being an entrepreneur. Trust me, you are more likely, I guarantee 99% of people who think this is a get rich quick scheme, they're going to lose their money. You might as well invest that money into dropshipping handkerchiefs on Amazon. And I'm dead serious. So that's a caveat and a warning. However, if you have a taste for it and you're not going to be an idiot about it, then I would say it may be a gamble worth doing.
Yeah, that's totally true. The get rich quick scheme. I mean, a lot of people get excited, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It is exciting to see your money grow or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing is what fascinated me about crypto is that this idea of decentralized finance and blockchain. And once I started learning about it, it's like my eyes opened up. I was like, oh my God, if more people like you and I, just regular people, not whales are actually, I don't know if we mentioned it or not. It's just people with huge amount of money. Let's say like Elon Musk, he will buy like, I don't know, half of Bitcoin in existence or whatever, or that he has the capability to buy, that. So this is what we're talking about. So once you learn like about the idea of blockchain and about the fact that it is like OpenSea in a way that you can create dApps and cryptocurrency with different applications. And this is what it does. And this is what ETH does. And this is what, Bitcoin's more of a store to value, but still there's, like you were mentioning, Solana, this Cardano, there's so many, and they're all projects. And like you said, a lot of them will probably fizzle out. We'll see, but the excitement is that there's so many applications and there's so many people, like regular people who have access to this, who can create these dApps and enter into the market and create this currency, and who can also participate in this world by, let's say, but like in a regular investment, I'll just be like frank, like for instance, before I invested in Facebook when it just came on, the shares just became available. I put some money in. I'm talking about like $500. I'm not talking about anything huge. But anyway, the investment went up and up. But the more I learned about the darker side of Facebook, that I didn't want to keep my money there because it just didn't feel good. I didn't feel like I was participating in something exciting and new and positive, to be honest. So what you're talking about, like all these, different cryptocurrencies, they're a way to make the world better. If you do your own research, as you said, if you actually research the cryptocurrency and if you believe in it, that's when you put a little bit of money into it, if you feel so called, right? And then, I mean, you don't have to keep it there until the losing end, but this is what excited me about blockchain to begin with. That it's so different, that it is decentralized, that we're not relying on central bank here, who are manipulating the economy in every which way. So
I have to say that my idealism of cryptocurrency has definitely taken a huge hit because of how the market has turned into the Wild West in the past couple of months. I do believe that there is still that ethos of decentralization and sort of sticking it to the governments and all the controlling powers, the centralized powers. I would say that for me, cryptocurrency, one of the reasons why I have cryptocurrency is because I have zero idealism and pure pragmatism. My huge thing is that I know I don't need to be psychic, and I'm not psychic. I'm just somebody who has, slight common sense. And I know that the US dollar is just going to not be as valuable in the future. Like we know this, right? It's like buying butter back in the 1970s, it was a lot cheaper. So we already know this. And so there is another vehicle where Sure, right now it's expensive, but it doesn't lose its value over time the same rate as something like the US dollar, which is just inflation and everything like it's just going to lose value. So for me as a pure pragmatist, I think the part about the decentralization is great and everything, but I'm just more afraid of like, am I going to be able to eat like in 30 years with the same dollar?
Right.
So I think for those who are very skeptical about anything new, cryptocurrency, and back in like 1999, they were skeptical about the internet. We need people like that because skepticism is good. But at the same time, for me, I'm just like, just from history, hundreds of years of history, that every single currency in history has gone down to zero. Every single currency eventually has gone down to zero. The US dollar, throughout history, the short history of the American dollar, it's lost value so many times. Huge amounts of value were lost after the 1970s. So I'm not saying anything controversial. This is just fact. So just in terms of that and seeing the rise of, dictatorships like the Communist Party of China, who, by the way, for a while, it seemed as though they were just going to dominate Bitcoin. But, these dictators, Russia, China, all these other places, because they can't control Bitcoin and they can't control cryptocurrency, like they're going to try to find ways to like kick it out or whatever, which to me is great because it's going to be like, well, everything that's banned is going to go up in value. So for me, this is just a way to hedge against, of course, I'm always going to have US dollars. Of course, I'm always going to have like regular currency. But I'm just mainly concerned about making sure that sometime in the future, like my kids, my family, like the young ones are not going to turn to me and be like, you are an idiot to buy these things.
Right. That's totally true. The money printing is just insane. And it intensified so much over the last, 2.5 years by this point, or 2 years exactly?
Yeah.
Since the pandemic and this package and this stimulus. I'm not saying, how can I say, like, I don't know how to run the government any better or whatever, but like you said, the fact and point is that the dollar is devaluing. It will devalue more probably. We don't have anything. We don't have no gold to stake by. There's nothing behind it but a promise. It's a promissory note at this point. And I don't know, recognized maybe by other governments, not all the governments anymore. It's recognized by many at this point. We'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, as far as like idealistic, I entered it in idealistic way. I got a little bit lucky because it was still a little bit early. But pragmatically too, you gotta huddle. You gotta put in something you think will have a store to value like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, and hopefully, I'm not saying put all your money into it, but just a little bit, like you said, you don't want your kids later looking at you and saying, "Oh, were you stupid?" Just put it
exactly.
in. Like see what happens. Just hold on to it. And you were mentioning the dictatorships, and that's a whole like different like it's a whole new point to the fact that it would also can give an individual like freedom from the dictatorship. Like, let's say, even if the Bitcoin was banned in China and there's a lot of miners who were Chinese or were operating in China and they either sold it or they were able to just get up and move to maybe another place in another country because of cryptocurrency, because of Bitcoin, because the government doesn't control this asset. It's not like US dollar. It's not like yen. It's like nothing like fiat. It's yours. You have private key to it. You need to remember your passwords. I mean, that's another thing too. You're your own banker. So the responsibility is yours. You're not going to call a hotline and say, what happened to my money? Where is it? Where's my seed?
Exactly.
And a lot of it is lost. There's just a side note really quickly. There's one guy like James of Invest Answers on YouTube. He keeps track as much as he can of Bitcoin, how much of it is lost and whatever with the seed phrases, and people send it to the wrong address or whatever. But the point I was trying to make is that it gives individual freedom is to anybody who's disenfranchised and who was able to put in some money into it, that you can leave. the oppressive government, you can't take your stuff and move if only you remember the seed phrase. It's not because, I'm coming from the Soviet bloc. I was born there, it was very real, the fact that we could not travel. Like you were not allowed.
Where were in the Soviet bloc?
Well, I'm technically Ukraine, but it was the former Soviet Union that I was born in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fascinating. I know that for a fact, because I interact with a lot of like Russian business people, and like I teach them English, and a lot of them were telling me how like back when the Soviet Union was suddenly like fell down and then was transitioning into like Russia and Ukraine and Belarus, people lost they'd been saving for 20, 30, 40 years, like these grandmothers. They did the right thing. And then all of a sudden, because the government fucked up, not the people who were saving and doing the right thing, because the government fucked up, they lost all their money. They lost it. Can you imagine like working for 20, 30 years and saving it in a bank account, and then it's just gone?
Guarantee that it, like, I know United States is completely different. I'm not comparing it to a dictatorship, but what's the guarantee? Germany,
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. And the thing is that if you want to move out of the United States with your assets, it's like, good luck if you have more than a certain amount. It's almost like if you decide that you're going to be a prosperous, profitable business, and you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling America anymore, and you try to take out more than a certain amount, the US government is going to be all up in your business, and they may even prohibit you from taking certain assets out. And it's like, you earned it. How dare a central government that's messing up, like tries to like mess with your stuff. So it's sort of like, let's try to hedge against, first of all, the incompetence of just all centralized governments. People are always just like, two brains are better than one. Well, the centralized government has just shrunk down the brain size versus a decentralized blockchain. It's thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably in the future, maybe millions of people. So more brains, the better, right? So why would you trust it to, let's say, 100 brains who you're not even sure that qualified, versus let's put it out into a decentralized, just like peer-to-peer stuff. And basically, yes, there's risk, but I'm willing to take that risk as long as everybody realizes maybe right now you don't want to put in 100% of all your fiat currency, fiat as in like your government currency, into cryptocurrency, because crypto, as I said, right now, it's like gambling. But in the next 10, 15 years, it's going to start to stabilize, and it's going to become just a lot more mainstream. It's becoming a lot more mainstream now. So maybe, at this point, I would say if you can afford it, even like, I'm going to throw out a random number here, $50 a month right now. Mm-hmm. You'd be shocked. $50 a month right now in 20 years, who knows? Especially if you go for the big, like the top 10 cryptocurrency, you may not be able to buy a lot. But again, in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, when you're handing over inheritance to your kids and they're going to look at you like you didn't buy. We're talking long game here. And I think especially as women are really good at long game. We're really good at that sort of like generational wealth building. Right. And we're not going to take the dumb risks that like a young person, like especially a young man, is going to take. So I would say if you are somebody right now, even if you don't have kids or you don't plan to have kids or whatever, mm-hmm. $50 every single month, and then see what happens. Most people, I think, can afford, it's not going to be a great thing if you lose the $50, but I think most people can afford it, and it builds up over time. So that's my advice. But right now, I think personally, if there's a way that you can earn the cryptocurrency rather than buying into it by exchanging fiat into crypto, I would say that's the way to go.
Yeah, so true. Like what you were saying, like I made a mistake, like relatively recently. I just said, I've been looking at these cryptos and I wanted to buy some Evelyn, Solana, whatever. So instead of doing it the smart way, like you said, basically it's called dollar cost averaging. You put like $10 a month, $50.
Oh, that's smart.
Depending on what you want, and you control the volatility. So what I dumped, all that I had at that point, and just to see it crash, because like you said, over the past few months, it's been pretty crappy. But it's good to enter, and dollar cost averages, because what, like right at this point, let's, it's a sale. And if you put a little bit, like you said, what, $50 a month or $10, whatever it is that your budget will allow, and you're not going to cry about, just watch it grow, watch it be there, like you said, for a long term, long game.
Exactly.
Not like, oh, I can't wait to harvest it in the next 2 months or whatever. Just keep it there.
This is I'm guessing this is for me. I'm not planning on taking out my crypto or anything like that for at least another 10 years. Of course, for my ETH, I'm not going to touch it. But for my other crypto, first, of course, you did something actually very smart, dollar cost averaging, which is, let's say over 2 months, you decide that you're going to spend $100. So you're going to say every single week over 8 weeks, you're going to split up $100 divided by 8. And so each week, as the price goes up and down, you sometimes buy it higher, sometimes you buy it lower, and it averages out. So it's dollar cost averaging. Another thing is that for me, because I am very, 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 very against risk. Like I am like the least risk-taking person. Like if you look at my astrology chart, I'm also like into astrology and witchcraft and stuff. You look at my astrology chart, I am like very conservative when it comes to like gambling or anything like that. I'm just not, I don't get off of that. So for me, as soon as I make profit, as in like, let's say I put in $100 into, I don't know, like Solana. And then finally I get to the point where, and I have a spreadsheet, like if you go on YouTube, you can find all these people, very helpful people who've created these Excel spreadsheets that you can download for free. You put in the initial price and the initial amount that you bought a cryptocurrency at, and they'll start spouting in numbers of, if the price goes below a certain point, maybe you want to buy more, but if it goes up to a certain point and then you hit like profit and stuff, then you need to watch very carefully. And once you hit a certain profit point, you have to basically sell. And it really hurts because you get greedy and you're just like, oh my God, let's hold it in longer. No. What you want to do is you want to sell at a certain profit, get your money back so that any money that's left in there is just play money, basically. You've made back all the money that you've put in. So you have to take profit. And this is actually something I learned from Paul Kodman. And Paul Kodman, he's a friend of mine, and he is a 20-year veteran of Wall Street. And he is really big into cryptocurrency. He actually got out of Wall Street because he made a killing trading in futures. And I don't even know even what that means. I don't care about stocks. I don't care about crypto. I don't care about this money stuff. But he's really good at it. And he made a killing. He got out of it. And then he's like really into crypto trading now. Like when I talk to him, he's just like, oh yeah, I made like 400 trades in the past like couple months. And I'm like, 400 in cryptocurrency. And we're talking like big trades at a time. And he came out with this amazing video, sort of like Crypto 101 video course. It has like 80 hours of video.
Oh, wow.
I looked through it. I think if you look up like BAALKADMON and look up blockchain, that Paul Kodman and blockchain, his video course is going to come. And it's a very affordable course considering the fact that he's a 20-year Wall Street veteran. He knows what he's doing. He's actually putting in thousands of dollars. Like you can see it real time. When he's doing trades, like he does video screencasts of like when he trades. And so you're seeing somebody who's an experienced trader who has a good instinct and knows the fundamentals really, really well and is successful. I think most of the YouTubers that you see, they may have good information, but they don't have a lot of skin in the game, probably. They're not putting in like $20,000 at a time, They're not putting in big money. So, versus somebody like Paul, that was his job for 20 years and he puts in big money because this is just what that's just his gift. So he has an amazing video course. And I think that would be a really, really good course for somebody who knows zero or very little about crypto or wants to learn more about how to trade from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about.
Sure.
So
I
really recommend
it up. Yeah, totally. I'll look it up and include it as a resource and a few other people.
I'll send you the link. I'll send you a link. Like it's like, I cannot recommend that course enough. Like for me, one of the biggest problems about blockchain and cryptocurrency is that a lot of the information out there is by very well-meaning, but I think inexperienced people who are just, I don't know where they're getting their information. And first of all, even if they're giving decent information that's technically correct, a lot of trading and a lot of cryptocurrency and gambling and anything related to money is very emotional.
Right.
And the fact that a lot of these young, inexperienced people are talking about something that is inherently irrational and emotional, like money, that scares me. I don't want to take advice from somebody who's never, well, he tells this amazing story about how when he was a young trader, he, as a young trader, you get like seed money. And then your mentor tells you, okay, don't fuck up. Once you lose it all, game over. But so don't fuck up. And that's kind of a way to weed out those who are going to stay and those who are going to go. He almost lost everything. And he talks about how he went to the bathroom and just threw up. And I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about, Will, because earlier back in, I think it was April or May, right, when the market suddenly crashed, like ETH went up, and everybody was like, it's going to go up forever. And then all of a sudden, it just crashed. I have a friend who was paid almost like, more than $100,000 in ETH, right? And she was like, everything's going to be great. My business, like, she didn't cash out. She was paid in ETH. She didn't cash out though, because she thought that it was going to keep going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And then basically it was almost halved, right? And she was like, oh, I really should have taken out some profits, because now there's a lot more stress about how I'm going to make, payroll and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just part of like the game.
100%,
And that's the reason why you want to take advice and you want to learn trading from somebody who actually has big skin in the game, because, and this is also one of the reasons why I think women tend to be better investors, like statistically, than men. It's because, I think perhaps we've been taught to be more in touch with like the gut feeling that says, this doesn't feel right. This feels like I need to, buy groceries next week. I'm not going to bet everything when I have like kids who are depending on me. We have people depending on us. We're not living in our mom's basement. So we can't just like lose
playing video games.
Playing video games, exactly. So I think that forces us to be more conservative. So maybe we won't become like, like the huge Wall Street traders and stuff, but that's okay. That's not even the goal, right? The goal of cryptocurrency, for me at least, is not to become rich. It truly is a risk-averse strategy, so that I won't get screwed by the US dollar, the Japanese yen, the Korean won, the Chinese yuan in the future, as it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you said, it's a hedge. It's good to put in. It's good to be smart, not put more than you're not willing technically to lose. And as you see the profits going up, take some profit along the way. Don't sell everything, but just if you just were lucky, you put in $50 a month, and then the next month something happened, you got like 250, take your 50 back. It's okay. Right?
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's the thing. Once you have all the amount of money that you put into the crypto, once you've taken your profits and now you're just house money, right? That's a completely different mentality. At that point, I would say that you're a better investor because you're not as emotionally invested into losing. You don't have anything to lose anymore. So you can make more clear-minded, logical choices with your money, because if you lose it, oh well. But if you make more, that's great. But whatever the case, you got what you put in. So in that respect, my strategy is extremely conservative. And that's also because I am a beginner. And I would say for most people who have been doing this for less than 4 or 5 years, we have to consider ourselves beginners. Sure. And during this time, I don't know if somebody who's experienced, who's like gone through it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think any of them would be like, yeah, like first 4 or 5 years, you gotta crypto, you gotta just be aggressive and do it. I don't think a really responsible person would say that.
Yeah, you want to play for $5, go ahead, but depending on what you're playing with. But absolutely. Exactly. You gotta learn the ropes. Like I will definitely include Ball's link and to his course. Also, like Ivan on Tech has like a whole academy that you can pay monthly for and learn more. And or even before, just to enter, just I'll also include some resources. Just watch some YouTube videos, not from the people that you described. Like I'll give some legit sources, like Andreas Antonopoulos. He
I was
just
about to say.
Yeah, he talks about the idea of it. Like it's good to introduce yourself from just to open yourself up to the idea. And then there's so many fun, exciting things, like even like different cryptos, like what is it, like Brave, the Brave token. I'm sure you're aware. It's like you go to this one, it's kind of like Chrome, but instead of Chrome, it's just a Brave browser, it's called. So you
it's
just
kind of like pay as you surf.
Yeah, and this is like such an important concept to like give to thank a person for their attention, not just like bombard them with ads and like expect that it's a normal thing. You can control the amount of ads you receive, and they give you just nothing huge, just a little tiny bit of the Brave token to thank you for your attention. And the cool thing too, like you can I am new at this, like because I'm new in crypto period, but plus even then I'm new, like you can tip, different artists whose content you see on the website. So it's, you participate in this like community, or what it feels like more like a step into the metaverse. And you participate in the community, and by receiving something, a token for your attention, by promoting somebody's work or giving them a tip, if you like what they put out, or you just want to support them. It could be like anybody, any artist, musician, whoever, visual artists. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I haven't discovered. So this is like another awesome side of crypto that's like super awesome to me.
Speaking of the metaverse, personally, because I entered into the crypto world, as I mentioned, basically by accident, and I honestly still don't give a shit about crypto. I don't buy stocks. I'm only in crypto because I was paid in crypto, and I was like, I need to learn. And maybe a lot of people in your audience may identify with this, I get excited not by that statistical side. I just do it because I need to. What excites me is creating things. So for me, the most exciting part is how NFTs are going to evolve. And of course, NFTs, the reason why they're connected to crypto is because crypto is the currency to do the NFTs. And as I mentioned, this is just all computer code. The way that NFTs are going to start evolving, like right now, people are just like, why should I pay all this money for basically a JPEG? I can take a screenshot and and that's true. To be perfectly honest, there's a point. But I think what a lot of mainstream people are not realizing is that while the wave, of like the mainstream, what they're seeing, it's like over here, but there's like new stuff that's happening over here that hasn't hit the mainstream as much. And this new stuff is going to be NFTs that are basically integrated into everyday life, gaming, things like that. Somebody who gets a lot of hate, but actually is surprisingly on point about NFTs because he has the mindset of a collector. By the way, if you're somebody who is a collector of anything, like I used to collect a lot of like makeup, like eyeshadow palettes, lip glosses, like I was one of those people. I should have started a YouTube for makeup instead of for witchcraft, because I was one of those people. I love to collect things, makeup. A lot of people think that, oh, it's just Star Wars and like masculine things that makes you collect. No. Collecting makeup is also being a collector. Or if you're a teenage girl who's a fan of BTS or who's like really into like Harry Potter or any other sort of fandom, if you understand fan mentality, not just like regular, oh, I like BTS, but like real fan mentality, being in a community, and also what it's like to be a collector, collecting memorabilia, all that stuff, NFTs, you are a natural fit, because that's what NFTs are fueled on, community, and also that mentality of like fandom. And basically it's always going to be the fans who are going to drive this, because let's put it this way. right now, and most people are priced out of this and now it's dying down, but for a while, the NFT world, they were doing these, and I'm sure you saw them, the apes, the CryptoPunks, the PFPs. Basically, it was, if you were on NFT Twitter, you saw all these people suddenly changing their social media avatars to these apes, these bored apes, or these crypto. Jay-Z changed his Twitter. And I think also like Steph Curry also changed his like CryptoPunk.
Became a status almost.
Yes. Why did they do that? The reason why they did that is because they were low-key flexing, and not everybody would understand. But those who in the know, the quote unquote cool people, the trendy people would understand you need a lot of money and you need a lot of cultural cachet. Like you need to be in the know to know that having a CryptoPunk, first of all, you probably spent a whole lot of money to buy it. So it means you're rich. So instead of like telling everybody you're rich, it's the biggest flex. You're changing your avatar into something that probably costs like a couple hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're rich. And also, as soon as you see another CryptoPunk, Bored Ape, whatever, you're instantly friends if you also have one, because you understand that, they get it. They and I, we have a lot in common. So without even like, no need for introductions, it's like, you're just like, oh, my brother, my sister, you know what I mean? Because you have the same taste, the same economic status, perhaps, the same sort of idea of what you consider to be cool. So you've already had that community right there. So imagine a world, and this is going to happen in the future without a doubt. And this is the reason why I hate when people shit on teenage girls for being like really big fans of like whoever, Justin Bieber, BTS, whatever. Because it's always this sort of behavior that drives the market, which is there's going to be a day where, let's say BTS, I'm just going to use them as an example. BTS is going to release NFTs. They're going to be expensive. And the thing is, because NFTs can be verified on the blockchain, you can't take a screenshot, like they're going to have 10 NFTs and they're going to be like, okay, bid on them. All those really, really, really rich teenage girls from like Hong Kong, Singapore and stuff, they're going to pay big bucks. And when they change their avatars, and let me tell you, BTS K-pop Twitter, huge, like stunningly powerful, like millions of people, millions of young people on there. So there's going to be 10 people on BTS fandom K-pop, Twitter, who are going to change their avatar to a limited edition NFT of BTS, and only 10 people in the world can do it. When they do, they will automatically go up the hierarchy of who's who amongst BTS fans. And anytime they tweet BTS, okay, BTS can see their avatar and they could easily check on the blockchain. Is this for real or is it just a screenshot, right? And the thing is that then all of a sudden BTS is going to reply back to them, big hit or, hype, whatever the name of that record company is now. They're going to reply back to, because they have basically in a way proven that they are at a certain hierarchy of the superfan. And they're going to do it with an avatar. And everyone, if they tweet about BTS, people are going to actually pay attention because it's going to be like, oh my God, they have that NFT. And maybe that NFT is going to be a mix between digital and physical. So it's not just going to be that they get to change like their avatar to this very like obvious like flex, but maybe also they're going to get limited edition t-shirts that only they can get. Maybe they're going to be able to get a special like video recording that's only for them from BT. It's going to be a mix of digital and physical because the blockchain is on the internet. So obviously it doesn't have to be only just one thing or the other. It can be a mix. This is what digital fashion is doing. Like my friend Charlie Cohen, who's done collabs with like Pokemon and stuff like that. And she does tech wear. She just recently did something that was like that. I actually bought it. I bought digital fashion. Cool. That was a Pokemon collaboration. And my avatar in the metaverse, I've been kind of busy like writing a book, so I haven't been able to get on the metaverse as much as I wanted. But, there's going to be a time where I can put that on and I can go walk around and people are going to be like, oh, this is the, Charlie Cohen Pokemon collab, digital. And if I wanted, like in the future, probably there's going to be other sorts of digital physical fashion things where maybe I can buy a digital outfit and make my avatar digitally look like me, of what's his name? Zuckerberg. He's just like, the metaverse is everything. And so he's like trying to create all that stuff. Imagine going to a work conference where you're wearing a Givenchy NFT as fashion, and everybody, they can maybe click very surreptitiously, so you don't even know it, but like maybe there's a privacy link that you can have turned on or off. If you want to flex and you're wearing an amazing digital outfit and people are like, where's that? They could maybe, without you even knowing, because you're inviting them because it's public, you can tap on the person's outfit and then it'll just, this is the metaverse. So you can see where you bought it, is it verified on what blockchain and stuff. And then you're just like, cool. So Givenchy NFT, obviously they got a huge promotion, whatever. And then you meet them, you go away from your keyboard and you meet them for coffee in real life. And they're wearing the same outfit. So Givenchy, you're wearing the digital outfit and you're wearing the same outfit when you meet them for coffee. But let's say, and this is the coolest part, the Givenchy that you're wearing, like when you're meeting your friend for coffee, it's cool, but the outfit that you wore for the meeting, it had fire coming out of it. Like it broke all the laws of physics because it's a fucking metaverse, you don't need to obey the laws of physics. So it's the same outfit, except maybe it's flames coming out and a unicorn coming out and like totally growing out of your back like every 30 seconds and stuff. But it's the same outfit. That's going to be an NFT as well.
For sure.
This is, if you're a creator, if you're somebody creative and you want to get into the cryptocurrency world, I'm just like, and you're not that interested in like the actual money part, like me, I would say probably going into that field, whether it's to create art experiences like video games that are very immersive, to create fashion, to create anything. But to do it on the blockchain and to do it in the ecosystem of cryptocurrency and therefore get paid in cryptocurrency. I mean, you obviously have to put in a little bit so that you can like start to interact within the ecosystem. But if you want to get cryptocurrency, I would say, and you're creative, that would probably be an entrepreneur on the blockchain. Why do you have to put in your fiat currency? Like try to be a blockchain entrepreneur instead. And that may be a much better fit for most people.
It's happening, yeah. But what you described is so like wonderful and amazing, and it's so like true. It totally, to me, seems like this is exactly it. Like how you describe the fans, the fanatics about like any sort of, I don't know, musician or whatever, and they create their own communities. And yes, I've seen and I've heard of like how we're meeting here. It's virtual. It's digital, but there's like bigger, more vibrant, like huge communities, how they identify each other, and they have digital like fashion. And then, like you said, how the real world interacts with the virtual world and the metaverse. And it's just, if we're going to have internet, we're going to go more and more that way. I don't see anything else. Like, I don't see how this is not going to happen or how it's not going to be more so, especially for more of the younger generation and the blockchain coming out. And then like there's, as far as being an entrepreneur, for sure. I mean, like even having a domain on the blockchain is better than paying somebody or renting domain space, how we're doing it regularly now. There's something, I'm sure the unstoppable domains, like it's nice to have your own domain that you paid for once and it's yours, instead of constantly like paying, I don't know, GoDaddy, let's say, for or being an entrepreneur like this way and having your business and every month paying GoDaddy to have your domain space. So blockchain is a thing, it's going to happen. It just seems like just a matter of time. If we don't lose the internet worldwide, it's going to happen no matter what. And this is where, to me, this is also like what you described. It is kind of magic, is it not? Like that in itself, me wearing like an outfit and something crazy and something cool. And it seems like we already have parts like, these like virtual glasses, the Google glasses or whatever, and how things are traded in the in the metaverse like world, let's say I have like a virtual land I bought and I want to invite you as a friend and have you hang out in your cool Givenchy outfit with flames coming out of it, then, you know, you get an invite, you get a token, and, you know, there we go. We have a party there. It seems like it's the way of the future.
It 100% is. And one of the great things is that as time goes on, and I think a lot of people are just more interested in the creative part, and the money's nice, but it's just kind of like either not interesting or it's just, you know, like the really interesting part is when we're going to be able to onboard the masses when it comes to the creative side. When, you know, I think one of the reasons why Amazon and Etsy became so popular is because they were a way to democratize the idea of being a distributor, of being an artisan, like a, you know, like creating like unique items, handmade items. There's so many marketplaces right now where you can sell your artwork, you can sell, you know, your services. This is something that I think a lot of people, they don't automatically assume as, oh, this is going to happen on the blockchain as well. It is going to happen on the blockchain. It's going to happen Web3. It's going to be Metaverse. It's going to be a very different looking internet than we think of right now. And to me, there's so much prejudice against cryptocurrency because, first of all, some of it's deserved because there's a lot of bros, like crypto bros, and just like scam artists. And, you know, I get tons of emails all the time from scam artists, like crypto. Okay, scam artists is kind of like harsh, but they want me to push basically shit coins on my account, you know, and they're like, and then for doing that, we'll give you like 1 million of these coins, you know, as if they're giving me a great deal, you know, and I'm just like, no, thank you. So this is what's happening. And then all these YouTube channels that are just giving you doom and gloom, like, oh my God, Bitcoin's falling. You better buy now. You know, it's just the silliest thing, you know, it's just a bunch of people gambling. So I get it, you know, but the thing is that the reason why blockchain technology is, again, this is nothing to do with like me being excited. This is just me being conservative and just being like kind of like grumpy and stuff like that. It's because my identity and the identity of the things that I want to buy, verifying them is going to be really, really important in the future. I have had several fake accounts, social media accounts, you know, under my name. Mm-hmm. I've had my friends, you know, they're putting up on Facebook and stuff like complaining as if that's going to help, you know, oh, I have a fake Instagram account. It's like, welcome to the club, and it's going to happen forever, right? And what about the thing that you want to buy on eBay, the Louis Vuitton bag that you want to buy on eBay that they swear up and down is like real? How do you know it's for real, for real? Mm-hmm. What if you are allergic to a certain fertilizer? I saw this in a TED Talk, and the oranges that you're about to buy from Whole Foods, they say it's organic and they don't use a certain fruit. How do you know? Well, that's what the blockchain is a way for strangers to make sure they don't fucking lie to each other. That's basically it. I know this sounds very like suspicious to me, but I think we all need to be conservative and suspicious about it, and to be like, why should I trust you? I don't know you. Why should I trust this late stage capitalism machine? They're just out to make a buck. I don't mind if they make a buck as long as they're being honest. And a lot of people aren't. What the blockchain is going to do is they're going to be that peer-to-peer sort of like, don't bullshit, because this computer and this computer and this computer all have the same records. And for that orange that's supposed to be organic, that farmer, if they're doing it right, they're going to be able to verify. You're going to be able to know from transport all the way to the supermarket, like from growth to supermarket, that they didn't use a fertilizer. You're going to know if the Louis Vuitton is on the blockchain, that bag you want to buy on eBay. Before you spend the $700, whatever the amount that you're going to spend, you're going to know if it's real or not. You're going to be able to verify on the blockchain that it's me, that it's you, that it's the celebrity, that they actually said college degrees are going to be on the blockchain. No one can fake it anymore. Sports tickets are going to be on the blockchain. Things that you just need to verify as being real. No fake tickets, no fake college diplomas, no fake social media accounts, no fake promises of organic whatever, no fake LV bags and stuff that actually turns out to be something that was made like in some sweatshop. No, that's what the blockchain is going to do. And we've all experienced how the internet makes it so easy for fake identities, fake Facebook accounts to start talking shit and like whatever, instead of like political like craziness, you know. That is going to perhaps be mitigated in some ways by blockchain. We don't know. It's possible. Blockchain, to me, I'm just like, forget all this other stuff, you know? The reason why blockchain is so important to me, and I believe that it's going to become the foundation for the future, is because you're going to know that it's the real thing. And to me, like more than any other like idealism, more than any other like making money, more than anything like that, I'm just like, I just know from personal experience, having a fake account that's trying to like lure people into giving them money using my picture, sounding very similar to me. The name is very similar to mine and everything like that. That sucks. But blockchain is going to really help with that. And just that, knowing that, I'm just like, that's why I'm very bullish. I'm like doubling down on blockchain and all the technology that's going to be built on blockchain. So even if, let's say, you don't have to, like, depending on the blockchain, some cryptocurrency is just, I don't know, like less distributed, less decentralized than others. Like Binance, if you buy Binance coin, it's just, it ain't Bitcoin, it ain't ETH, you know, it's definitely more controlled, it's very closed and stuff, you know, they have their own servers and what have you.
Yeah.
So not all blockchain is going to be this like wonderful utopia, but depending on your needs, that's fine.
Yeah, that's totally what you're saying is I do have this is like basically because crypto altogether, it's based off of blockchain. This is what gives the foundation, the comfort, you know, of knowing that this is real, this is verifiable, this is unmutable, cannot be changed, cannot be destroyed. Yes. It's there, it's in record, and people all over the world have that record in different computers. It's there. And you're right, you know, who knows, but not you know, of course I described like, or what we talked about, like more or less utopian, you know, metaverse. It could be.
Oh, I was there like a couple months ago, that utopia, that idealism. Yeah, I was absolutely there. And I think it's that idealism that helped push me through the boredom of learning about cryptocurrency. Like, in some ways, maybe it's not good for me to be too realistic in the beginning and discourage people, because, you know, you need that sort of like fire to get through. Literally, I have like a stack of books like that I read just about all the crypto and stuff. God, it was just complete. This is when I realized I'm not interested in the actual crypto. Like, I'm more interested in the NFTs and what I can do with the crypto. And I think most people are probably like that too. Find whatever works to get you through the slog of learning, through the ridiculousness. I'm kind of upset that Ball's course wasn't available when I first started, because like I would have rather done that than read
self-politics for limited time.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's not something that you want to become. I don't want to become a day trader. I don't want to become a crypto trader. Like, that's like not what I'm interested in. I just don't want to. That's all it is. But I would say for somebody, let's say that you're listening to this and you're mainly interested in perhaps going into the blockchain ecosystem to be a creative, to be an entrepreneur. And by the way, there's going to be, I think, from now till, I'm going to be conservative here, next 5 to 10 years. This is kind of like the internet from like the year 2000 to 2010, you know. There's going to be this wide open space for people who have relatively little experience in this field to go in and to try to do something, because it's still so new when it comes to non-crypto, non-fungible, or like, sorry, fungible, like just currency related stuff. That's kind of like, you know, DeFi and stuff like that. Like decentralized finance is sort of like banking or like investing with crypto, which I'm fast losing all interest in. But the NFT side, the creative side, the entrepreneurial side, the buying the land in the metaverse side, the creating video game side, the digital fashion side, becoming a marketplace for NFTs side, figuring out how to do NFTs in a way that hasn't been done before side. That side, to me, is going to be exploding, super explored in the next 5 to 10 years. And between the year 2000 and 2010, all these huge internet companies, the ones that we know and love today, that's when they really came to be. I'm not saying, you know, like we all need to become the next Google, Amazon, or like PayPal or anything like that. But if there is a time to get into it and you're not somebody who wants to be like a trader, then I would say getting into that creative side is a wonderful way to get into it. And, you know, it does require an upgrading your skill set. It does require knowing a little bit of code, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whatever. But I think most people can figure it out. Like, seriously. Okay, I'm just gonna tell like an anecdote of like how I got into this whole, I have a YouTube channel, I do social media, then I started to do NFTs. Every single one of those things, like literally like with my YouTube channel, 4 or 5 years ago, one day I was just like, I wanna eat like on YouTube because I was in Korea and mukbangs, like eating channels, they were really huge in Korea. And I was like, I want to make one of those. I didn't know how to edit a video. I had never touched a video editing software in my life. I had never recorded myself. I didn't really care to record myself, but I was like, it just sounded fun for some reason. Going on an escalator up to a restaurant, my friend and I were like, what should we call it? And I was like, oh, I don't know, which is one. Like literally, it was just like very casual. It took me 2 weeks to make, or even up to a month to make one video because I had to Google everything. I had to Google every single thing. And I almost gave up, right? But I didn't. Point is that you can Google a lot of these things. And then for social media and stuff, same thing. I was like, TikTok, how the hell do you, the first time I looked at TikTok, I was like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. But, you know, I didn't give up. And then I Googled and then I studied how to do it. And then I did it. And then, of course, the NFTs, I told that story. So the thing is that I think a lot of people, they let the technology part kind of turn them off, but it's like Google is there, you know, Google and YouTube are there, and people are very generous about sharing information. So you could figure it out, you know, if I could figure it out, and I'm like not a technical person, I don't have a technical background, I don't have a statistical background, I don't have any sort of background like that, you know. So it's like if I can figure it out, then I really think anybody else can figure it out.
For sure. I mean, I'm not saying that if you can figure it out, everyone else can figure it out, but really it's effort, you know, it's not necessary. It's like everything in life. You put forth effort, you learn. I didn't know anything. Like, unfortunately, I wish I knew about Ball's course. I would have taken it. There's not one person who was alive in physical 3D space who could teach me or show me anything. I just had to Google this, Google that, YouTube, watch this guy, oh, he's kind of bullshit, or he's better, or oh, he's useful. The theory sounds good. Let's Google this, let's learn that. And this is like you said, you know, about money. Money's great. I love money. The more, the better. But the thing is, we're here to live and experience our life, not, you know what I mean? Let money come. That's great. But like watching a trade every hour or whatever is not my joy either. It's just the overall concept, as you said, about the, you know, the metaverse, what's happening, that it's like the beginning, like, you know, get into the space in the beginning. So, and watch, the decentralization, because you were mentioning the Binance coin or whatever. I mean, not everything's created equal or the same, and so some things are like, even you were talking about Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he's talking about metaverse and creating like his specific digital currency on Facebook. I mean, that's a little scary because I don't see how that would be, you know, verified or decentralized. So that's one of those things. But you're so totally right. Yeah, now is the time, because time goes fast. And if you want to get into it for any reason. If you want to, like you said, if you want to be an entrepreneur and experience something new, great. If you want to have just a little bit of hedge against what's coming, if the current state of the economy worries you a little bit, that's a good enough reason too. So all of these are on the table.
Yeah, I would say that for me, the metaverse, blockchain, and the things you can create and the identity and the authentication that can happen on the blockchain is far more interesting to me than the actual trading and the speculation of cryptocurrency. Some people may be the opposite, who knows? But I think those who are interested in the speculation of the coins, they get way more attention than those who are actually trying to figure out like what do we do with this blockchain, right? What do we do that's like new, that's not related to just, throwing like coins from one spreadsheet to another, which is pretty boring if you ask me. So I would say that for me, the whole cryptocurrency, like in the crypto magic, perhaps, or the crypto art or crypto whatever that I do, a lot of people, they think that what I'm doing is like trading coins because that's what everybody else does, or that I'm creating like the JPEGs and that I'm selling those, right? And that's how I initially got in, for sure. But what I'm really interested in right now is the idea of like, okay, I got a taste of it. And now I know like what part of it excites me the most. And we need to go towards what we are most excited about. By the way, have you heard of human design?
Yes, I have. That was going to be one of the topics that I thought to offer in the women's course, but I've contacted some people and I haven't heard back. So, but human design is in itself is amazing and awesome and correlates with a lot of different philosophies.
Well, for me personally, I've gotten into it in the past, let's say year or so, like not very deeply, but recently I really started to go deep into it. And I don't know if you've done your chart.
I have, yes.
What's your type?
Between the four types, manifester.
I'm a manifesting generator. And like there's all these other things too. Like I think the analogy was, well, before I get into the analogy, for those who may not know, human design is kind of like a cross between astrology, I Ching, chakras, and in a lot of ways, one of the reasons why I couldn't take it seriously at first is that it just seemed like a whole bunch of woo-woo bullshit, and I was just like, oh my God, But like everything else, you gotta first put in like a sincere effort into it. And if it still was bullshit, at least you tried, right?
Like mindset.
Yeah, and I put in a sincere go, and same thing with the witchcraft. Like that's kind of like how I got into this entire sphere through witchcraft. Like I have a witchcraft interviewing YouTube channel. I'm an atheist. I got into witchcraft and I interviewed people because I was like, I think this is bullshit. So, but I want to give it a fair chance, and I want to hear what people who actually have been doing this for decades, who've written books about it, who study it at universities. It's like a thing in universities now. I want to hear what they say. When you hear the experts, all of a sudden, whether it's astrology, whether it's magic, whether it's witchcraft, whether it's plain old science, no matter what topic, when you talk to people who have done their due diligence and studied, you suddenly realize that the topic that people love to make fun of, it actually has something about it. Even Christianity, like I used to be a flagrant, like anti-Christian, like atheist. Mm-hmm. And then I started talking to people who were much more educated about Christianity than the average person. And then I was like, oh, there's nuance here that was missing from the mainstream conversation. It's the same thing. Human design was kind of like that too. So I'm like looking through it and stuff, and it works for me. It may not work for everybody, but for me, once I started to follow the strategy and the authority, there's certain parts of it, like there's this thing called strategy, which is sort of like overall advice of how you should react to things. And then there's your authority, which is how you should make decisions. These are suggestions. And once I started to follow those, and I started following it about a year and a half, whatever ago, wow, like the return on investment in terms of like the results that I was able to get, it was pretty stunning. So depending on your type, and not everybody has the same type, of course. For my type and my strategy and my authority and everything, just like my entire chart and stuff, I learned that I can't do what everybody in mainstream, especially American culture, says is the way that the entrepreneur or business person or even an artist is supposed to be like, which is hustle culture. You gotta be proactive, man. You gotta go up to that person. You gotta DM them. You gotta slide into their DMs. You gotta DM 100 people. That Gary Vaynerchuk sort of like, you need to like slide into 100 people's DMs and stuff like that. I'm a manifesting generator. That does not work for my energy type. And I remember like every time I would like really just like try to hustle because that's what's glorified in American culture.
Exactly.
It would be very frustrating. I'd feel like I was treading water. It turns out that for me, the way that I'm supposed to do things is completely different. And in fact, it's completely against what American culture considers to be like like productive behavior. So what I'm supposed to do, and it sounds so ridiculous when I say it, but it works for me amazingly. And I wouldn't have known this if I didn't do my human design, is I need to basically have an idea, get excited about it. This sounds like total bullshit when I say this. Get excited about it, and then scan the world to see if the universe is going to give me signs that I should go that way. And when the universe brings things and kind of drops it into my lap, has somebody knock on the door, like basically I just need to chill.
Invitation, right? Do you need an invitation? Is that
yeah,
what?
Exactly. And then once that happens, then I have to respond. And then once I respond, then I can like go fast. But that sounds like bullshit, right? That sounds like everything you're not supposed to do. And so to learn how to not do the entire like slide into 100 people's DMs and like be very proactive and hustle, to manifestors, most manifestors, that's in their human design DNA. Like that's what they need to do. Like manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors should not do that. So once I stopped doing what manifestors should do and I honored my human design, all of a sudden things like a book contract dropped into my lap, literally. I wasn't even thinking about it or anything like that. And they just emailed me and were like, do you want a book deal?
That's
and I was like, yeah. And I was just like, sure. They're like, this is what we offer. And I was like, can I ask for 40% more, please? And they're like, okay.
Oh, good for you. That's wonderful. Also another thing about a womanly topic in itself, but way to go.
Yeah, it's human design for me has been very successful. And so even if it turns out like later that it's a complete bunch of bullshit, I'm going to be like, well, it worked for me, so I'm not going to discount it, right? It may not work for other people. Who knows? This is still very new. Usually I'm very conservative about things that I am a proponent of in terms of the occult and magic and witchcraft, because I come from an atheist skeptic background, which, by the way, my human design explains it all, like what I do in terms of, my YouTube, my atheism, everything like that. But the thing is that that's the reason why I started my YouTube channel, because I was just like, I'm so sick and tired of seeing all the stuff that makes witchcraft look like complete and utter, just like people who are in La La Land, fantasy world, because that's not me. If that's not me, there must be other people like me who are just like, I want to tell people that I like give incense to spirits, but I don't want them to look at me weird because everybody who does that is completely nuts. You know what I mean? Not that they're actually completely nuts, but it's sort of like you want your own little crew, talking about fandoms and stuff and community. Even within something like witchcraft, there's communities within witchcraft. There's communities within gaming. There's communities within people who do makeup. There's communities of everywhere within communities, sub-communities. So because of that, I was like, I want my own community. I want people like me. I don't want to hang out with people who, I don't want to be put under the same umbrella. And that's what community and fandom is. It's like you say, this is me, and I want people like me around me. And perhaps that too is like, that's the thing that people always tell business people, you need to find your community. You need to like find the people like you, right? And to me, that was always a very disingenuous thing to advise people, because it sounds so fake. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, you can't just build community. It's more like you need to be you, show up, and then have people be like, yes, I'm like you. Thank God you're here, because I was thinking I could hang out with them and I didn't want to hang out with them, right? So in a way, building community is very disruptive. Building community is actually in a lot of ways not a nice thing, because when you build community naturally has borders that says, we're separate from you, we're different from you. And that's one of the reasons why like I got into the YouTube thing, but then I think that helped my mentality to start going to the crypto thing as well, because it's all about that. It's like learning how to define like you versus everybody else. If they want to get with your program and they want to like chill with you, they need to like vibe with you. They need to like find some ways to like have like things in common with you. But I'm here being like, I don't want to become like you. I know what I like. So I'm just going to be me. And I'm just going to stand here stubbornly and then see if anybody else shows up. And it took 3.5, 4 years. For about 2 or 3 years, my YouTube channel, it had less than 1,000 subscribers. And it had, you know, a couple of views here and there, whatever. And I still kept doing it. I don't know why. Every time I wanted to quit, something always happened where I was just like, well, it's like an invisible sort of like, again, like manifesting generator type and everything. It's like things would happen. And I was like, okay, fine. You know, I wasn't supposed to do this full time. It was just supposed to be a hobby. What the fuck, you know, whatever. So I just kept doing it month after month, complaining every step of the way, you know, and people were always just like, oh my God, you know, people who do these things are very energetic and they're so like, they're hustling and they're grinding and they're always, I'm just like, do people even know? Half the time I'm napping, you know, half the time I'm exhausted, I'm complaining. I don't have a plan. I don't have a business plan. I don't have anything, nothing, right? Nothing whatsoever. And yet every time I'm just like, I'm done. This is too much. Suddenly this door opens and somebody just like walks in and is just like, we're just going to give you all this. Can you please continue? Like, and then I'm just like, well, I guess I will, because, you know, he just gave me something. So my point of telling you this anecdote, these stories, is to say basically very roundabout way of saying like human design helped me accept the fact that some people are not supposed to be like super hustly types. Again, half my time, I'm just napping. I'm so exhausted, you know, like my TikTok. I started TikTok, by the way, human design also helped me have good timing. I started TikTok a year, like in 2020, like early 2020. I just got in right before it just went boom, like right before lockdown and everybody got on TikTok.
Right.
So I got on. Perfect timing. If I started now, I don't think I would have the numbers that I have now. I think I haven't checked in a while. I'm like the worst, like, people are just like, oh my God, to grow on TikTok, you know, like you need to like post like 5 million times a day. This is what I used to tell people as well, because in the beginning, that's what I used to do because it was fun. You know, I just posted like 5 million times a day. And I think I have something about somewhere around 250,000 followers on TikTok. I think, I don't know. Whatever. I don't kind of
I know
really
you
care.
have followers, but I don't know so much. It's insane.
I don't know, something like that. I don't really keep track of these things. But the thing is that like, I did it because it was fun, you know, because it was lockdown. What else did I have to, you know, I had nothing else to do. And so I just made these TikToks that were like, just me being grumpy and being like, I don't know, just talking shit. And I was just me. And I had no intention of building community, no intention of doing anything, you know, I just did it just because I had nothing else to do really. And then it just happened. And I think people can really pick up on those who are trying to, you know, purposely build a community. You know, it just feels weird.
Absolutely. It's like you're working too hard and they can see through it. And I've seen some of your videos, maybe not on TikTok, but on YouTube, when you're just like so open, so genuine, especially, I'm just going to mention it, the video about the, you know, the violence against the American Asians, you know, we'll just call it that way, was just so real. And it was so just true. And it's so like, it was heartbreaking, of course, but like you see these things happen and it's like, just to hear somebody with experience, with culture talking about it and talking about your mother, it was just so real. There's nothing else. It was just real. And it's, I feel like if people know it, they see it, it's just needed, you know, versus like, oh, let me do number, I don't know how many you said you have to post in a month. Like, this is my number 57, you know, like, or whatever.
You'll naturally do all the things that make you quote unquote successful. Those things come naturally if you come from a place of like authenticity. Like no one had to force me to put up like 5 million TikToks in the beginning. I did it because it was fun. Right. When it stopped being fun, I stopped. So I thing is, there are so many things where I think a lot of people, they compromise their energy, their authenticity, because the most dangerous thing is not the beginning when you're starting something. Because when you're starting something, it's fun, it's new, there's no pressure. The really dangerous part is when you get just a little bit of what people might consider to be success. Once you hit, I would say on YouTube, let's say 10,000 subscribers. When you hit on TikTok, let's say 50, 60,000 subscribers. When you hit on Instagram, I don't know, like 10K subscribers, whatever. I'm just making these numbers up. Once you hit that and you're no longer like a small creator, right? That's where it's really dangerous, because then it's sort of like, oh my God, now it's a job, now it's a slog. Then all of a sudden you have to like start doing things, and you have to keep on doing it. And you have to learn how to, there's a formula and everything. And there's nothing wrong with learning the formula, but I think a lot of us are sacrificing the long game for the short-term game. Because the thing is that I'm watching a lot. One of the reasons why I stopped posting so much on social media is that I started to see a lot of other people posting, and it was so cringy. Like there's certain, it's so embarrassing to show these motions and stuff. There's certain things on TikTok, certain sort of tropes, certain sort of stereotypes, the way that's people slang that's used. And there's this movement. It's like people go like this, when they talk, they're like having an attitude and stuff, whatever. Or, they'll be like saying stuff, and then they'll just like do like an ironic sort of like, the TikTok, it has a certain vibe and a flavor to it. And the thing is that I started seeing it and seeing how people were doing it, and it was just so cringy. And I was like, I know why they're doing it, and it's working to get them subscribers. Mm-hmm. But what's going to happen in 5 years when you look back? Right. The internet doesn't forget. It's going to be so cringy. And this is the worst way, if we're talking from a purely business point of view, that's the worst way to build a brand. You know what I mean? Like, that's just so weird and gross. Like, and the thing is that, okay, if that's really you, do it. But that's not really me. And I think for a lot of people, that's not really them. They're just kind of like emulating those who are successful, like their mannerisms and everything. Mm-hmm. And, like I just felt really uncomfortable. And then realizing that, and I'm sure you've noticed on social media, you need to be so like divisive, and you need to like be so angry to get attention. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like, like, do you really want that to be part of your legacy? Because the thing is, that's a trend. The pendulum is going to swing the other way. Do you want to be known as this, and then you're going to be, swing? I don't know. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's authentic, and they should do it if it's authentic. But when it's authentic, even if it's like trendy, you can tell it's authentic, right? Yeah, so the point. Yeah. So my very roundabout way of like trying to explain this whole thing about community, why it's important, and also like why, by the way, my eyelashes started to fall off, I think. So it's like, I'm just like looking, and I'm just like, what is going on here? So I think that one of the things that I realized into this journey of like doing social media was that I didn't force it. It just happened. And because of the social media, because of TikTok, that led to this, which led to that, which led to this, which then finally led to the book deal. And so I just finished writing the book, and it's being published by an Australian publisher named Smith Street Publishing. And the book is going to come out in hardcover next year. And it's going to be about magic, futurist magic, and also magic that has a strong sort of like Korean American K-pop element to it. But there's sections in the book about cryptocurrency, blockchain magic. And I'm sure that Rachel from Aeolian Heart, you may have heard interviews where she discussed how her husband Andre, and I, and Bal Cogman, we did a magic ritual on the Ethereum blockchain. So can you imagine? It's like, this is where I get super authentically like geeking out, like giddy, excited, because to me, the blockchain, again, is not just about cryptocurrency. Who gives a shit about cryptocurrency? I don't give a shit about cryptocurrency. It's boring. But can you imagine when you're trying to do magic on something, like when you're, trying to, let's say, do traditional magic and you want to like make more money. What are you going to do? Usually the magic ritual involves like coins or like dollar bills or I don't know, something like that.
Right.
But
It's totally, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
It's things that you can lose when you're moving your apartment. It's things that you might accidentally drop into, like when you're drunk, you may accidentally drop that dollar bill, or your dog may chew it up, or I don't know, eventually the dollar bill is going to disintegrate, or eventually the coin is going to tarnish. Or let's say you're going to, in the occult, you build like a money box, and then you ask spirits to come into it and stuff like that. Spirits that are from like these books, like traditionally certain grimoires, like there's demons. They're called demons, but they're not really demons, whatever. You call them and they're going to help you. And then I was just like, well, you know what? I think artificial intelligence in demons or spirits are kind of the same. It's like AI, they can basically predict like how to text message you back in a way that seems really realistic. As far as I'm concerned, that's more real to me than an actual spirit, because no spirit has ever texted me back,
Right.
So I was just like, this, AI is demon, and there's a lot of traditions where they talk about angels and demons almost like the way that we talk about aliens, and I was just like, whatever, same difference, I guess. And if you do magic on the blockchain, it's immutable, it's top secret, like nobody can fuck with it. It's there forever, pristine. Because the thing is that money and magic are very, very similar. Money, currency, it is a way to store. And when I say magic, I'm talking specifically about, let's say, the lucky charm that you wear, or the talisman, like a good luck like necklace that maybe a magician, they put it out during the time when astrologically all the planets were aligned in a very nice way. And they're like all the, or people who recharge their crystals under the moon, whatever. It's under the same principle, which is you take energy, you put it into something and store it like a battery. Same thing with money. You work today, and that energy of today is stored in this thing that is durable called money that you can spend in the future, because maybe you don't need to buy, or you don't have, maybe you want to buy a house in the future, but it's like the fish that you're trying to trade, it's going to rot in a week. How are you going to like buy a house in the future if you have only something that's going to spoil? Oh, you're going to trade it with people who need your fish, and you're going to use a medium that is durable, like gold, like paper, whatever. And now it's going to be like digital numbers, like PayPal, Venmo, whatever. It's the same idea. They're both batteries. That's all it is. And they're just a facilitation tool. That's all they are. And hey, if AI and spirits, they seem about the same, then talismans, like what happens if you create an NFT, which we did, you create an NFT and you, during an auspicious astrological time, and it was a very auspicious like astrological time when Rachel, Andre, myself, and Ball, we did this. You create an NFT, you create a ritual, and then you put it up on the blockchain. It's there forever during this time. And there's a way for the Ethereum blockchain, you could put in a UTF-8, whatever it's called, code. You can put in any sort of petition. You can put in any sort of note into blockchain. So that's what we did. And there's an NFT. And because ETH right now, the gas fees are ridiculous, I'm just like, I don't want people to buy this. They're going to spend way too much on the gas fees. But the NFTs, they were put onto OpenSea during another astrologically auspicious time. So technically, once the gas fees become a little bit more whatever, people can have that talisman inside their wallet, inside their ETH wallet. And that ETH wallet can have that battery exuding certain energy, like every time they open the wallet, every time they do a transaction. I may just end up, I don't know how we're going to do this. I'm trying to figure out the entire gas fee situation because it's like so ridiculous. And for those who may not be aware, every time you do a transaction on the Ethereum blockchain, you have to pay like, it's kind of like a service fee. But depending on how busy the blockchain is at the time, the service fee can be as low as, let's say, $20, $10, $2. But sometimes, especially now, it's like huge, hundreds of dollars.
Right. I paid a lot because I sold something to make profit, but you have to be careful and watch what the fees are, because sometimes you can pay for fees more than what you're actually getting, which is like ludicrous. But yeah, maybe hopefully when 2.0 comes out, it'll be better. But tell us, you were talking about Mercury Magic, right? When you were talking. But also, like, I want to mention your book. Like, what's the title? Like, and if you give some information, also, I'll include it below the video.
So the title of the book is Spell, and then there's a space, Bound. So if it was just one word, spellbound, it means that you're kind of tied up because of a spell.
Ah, nice.
And it's a Susie Sue song as well. You know, like, I don't know if you like punk music, but like Susie Sue has this amazing song called Spellbound from the 1980s. Like, I love Susie Sue and punk music. But this one is spell, as in like you're giving a spell, but there's a space. So bound is like, it also means you're going towards something. You're bounding towards a destination. So the book is divided up into the 5 phases of Chinese Mushing. Or, you know, like in Western occultism, there's 4 elements, right? There's water, there's earth, there's fire, there's air. In Eastern Chinese, it's not elements, they're phases. They're like things that are much more like flowy. They're not building blocks, they're actually phases. There's 5 phases. There's wood, there's fire, there's earth, there's metal, there's water. And they're different feeling and vibes and the elements of Western occultism and Western magic. So it's divided into that, and subdivided within those is the 3 stages of classical Western alchemy, which is Negrido. Negrido is when you take an element, you can take, let's pretend this is like, I don't know, like a rock. And then you can literally burn the rock. You can do something to darken it, to ferment it, to break it down. That's the Negrido part. And then there's the next part is called albedo. Albedo is the whitening, when it just is burned to the point where it's like white ash, you know. And finally, there's the 3rd part, which is considered kind of like the final part. It's called rubido. Rubido, like red. You're kind of taking the ashes, purifying it, and then you're re-injecting kind of the blood back. So you're rebuilding the rock again, but the rock is a purified rock. So imagine if you took yourself, and of course you can't physically break down your body, but if you take your personality and through the actual physical act of alchemy, this was supposed to be the big secret. Like when people are just like, oh my God, you're turning lead into gold. What you're really doing is you're not physically turning the lead into gold per se. You're taking this heavy, kind of like weighty soul that you have. And then through this physical act of patiently breaking down the rock, the grape, the whatever it is, breaking it down, making it turn out. You can't force it, right? You have to wait, and then you make it into ash, and then you have to purify it. And then after that, you recombine everything, and then you make it into an even more powerful, more pure version of itself. That entire physical process is a meditation that makes you realize, holy shit, wait a second, this is like me. I can take the weighty soul, the part of me that feels uncomfortable in my own flesh. I can break that down. You know, I can, you know, people say you have to kind of like die to be reborn again. It's that idea. And then you just have to pass through that discomfort of breaking it down. And then suddenly you'll have a white flash of inspiration where you're going to be like, I didn't realize. And then you're going to take all the parts of yourself and build it back again. And the person you build back is you, but it's like you on steroids. It's you times a million, because it's all the essential parts of you, like at its 100th degree. That's what, to me, witchcraft is about. Witchcraft is not this entire, well, I have to be careful what I say, because sometimes I can be really grumpy about this. But the way that I do witchcraft is very much like, you're a jealous person, a competitive person, cool. Purify that, make yourself even more jealous and more competitive. There's nothing about you that's like bad or wrong, you know? You need those things, all these different things, we're all playing different parts in the same ecosystem. Not everyone can be, you know, I don't know, like some saint. Not everyone is meant to be super evil either, but we're all serving like our own little purpose. And ultimately, when you have zero shame and you have zero judgment about yourself as not being good enough, oh, I'm not building community. Oh, what should I do? Oh my God, I'm not going into cryptocurrency fast enough. What should I do? You know, it's like, that's not what we're trying to do when we do witchcraft. Witchcraft is making yourself into the most badass version of your unapologetic version of yourself, to the point where you walk into a room and you honestly, you're just like, you're the person who goes up and you're just like, what's up? You know, and that's it. And that's it. Like, there's nothing else that happens besides you just being you.
And moment, yeah.
And the thing is that I found that when I first started this witchcraft journey, you can see in my YouTube videos as well, I was trying really hard in the beginning to be kind of like Tom Bilyeu. I was trying really, really hard to not be me, because I just didn't think that what I offered was, to be honest, I didn't think I was a good interviewer. Sometimes I still honestly think I'm not a good interviewer, but at this point, I'm just sort of like, meh, take it or leave it. And I was just really just very uncomfortable. Like, I was just like, I'm a fraud. I'm just, I don't know, just the regular things and stuff. But the thing is that you see those videos in the beginning, you'll see a very clearly different person. And then if you compare it to the interviews that I've been doing recently, there's a big difference. And I think the biggest difference is that when I watch the interviews now, I don't feel as uncomfortable. When I watch the videos from before, I feel so like, oh, cringy, even though in some ways they may actually be better because I actually tried. But like, the videos that I make now, I watch it and I don't have the same anxiety or stress when I see it. And to me, that's just way more, I don't know, I don't want to say it's more entertaining per se, but I think that because I'm feeling a lot more like, if people don't like what I'm doing, there's a million other places for them to go. So, you know, that's fine. And it's the same, I think, for everything else that I do. Instead of trying to appeal to everybody, you appeal to just the people that you think are cool. I guess that's a very elitist way of saying it. And then you just do that and then see where the chips fall. And depending on the type of person you are, where the chips fall, it may fall very effortlessly. It may, I say effortlessly, even though it's not really that effortless. You may have to work a little bit, or maybe, for some, to be perfectly honest, according to human design, some people are just not, they're better off being sort of like the lieutenant, like the second in command, or like the advisor to the person who's like going forth and doing stuff. The reason why I'm bringing that up is that I hate the way that modern society, especially American society, has made it so that being second in command, third in command is like looked down upon. You know, or like everybody has to be a hustler, everybody has to grind, everybody has to be like this, everybody has to be, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, the hierarchical, you know, masculine point of view. This is us. Yeah,
it's a Tim Ferriss version. You know, it's a Tim Ferriss, Jim Rogan, that sort of like, and I'm sure that many people, and myself included, I don't relate to that. I don't relate to that at all. I relate to being a fangirl for K-pop and a fangirl for boy bands. I relate to being a fangirl and huge like enthusiast for like watching makeup tutorials on YouTube. I relate to doing all these things that people who are being put up on a pedestal as being the paragon of like the way you should be, like they are oftentimes looking down on people like me. They're looking down on people like me as being too superficial, too fluffy, too light, too whatever. Basically, too girl, you know. That's what it really is. Like, I'm not masculine enough. I'm not serious enough. I'm not whatever enough according to their standards. Same with magic, same with the occult. You'll notice that a lot of the serious occultists, and I started to notice this, people I was interviewing, fortunately, it was very painful for me to hear feedback, but there were many people who were, I would say, they were hurt and angry. And so they at the moment were lashing out, but I'm grateful that they lashed out at me, because the feedback was that I was interviewing the same type of person constantly on my YouTube channel.
Don't watch somebody else's YouTube channel. These are the people who are interested to you. So what's the problem?
I think what they were saying was that I was falling into the box of like, a serious occultist looks like this, sounds like this, instead of having more diversity, which is ironic because, I'm a woman of color, I'm a woman, things like that. And once I heard that, and it was very painful to hear, it was very painful. I got very defensive. Once I got over being defensive, though, I realized even if I didn't 100% want to agree with them, it wasn't like they were just pulling it out of their ass. And like, it's not like they didn't have a point. So I became much more aware. And from that point on, I like started really hard to like trying to be more like, not just like, oh, I'm just going to give some lip service and stuff like that. I just want to make sure visually, like, I'm bringing in different people. I'm going to talk more about like things that relate to me and stuff. The point is that this entire journey of like doing witchcraft and stuff has also been me realizing like when we talk about alchemy and the breaking down, the Negrito part, me breaking down as well this idea of like what magic looks like. I am positive, 100% positive, and it's very painful as well, that there are people who will never take me seriously, like never, ever, ever, ever in the occult world, and who don't think that I am a good occultist. They don't think that I know anything. They think that all I care about is like I do a lot of this, and I put on a lot of makeup because I like it. So it's like I know that there's a lot of judgment, and
this is how does that interfere specifically with what you know and the power of your magic? I don't understand that. I will never understand it. That is not.
It's the same thing as like the entrepreneurial. It's the same thing as the entrepreneurial mindset of like, you have to, like the fangirl who spends hours upon hours like making these fangirl videos, right? If you've seen some of these like BTS fan videos and stuff, the hours that people put in to make these beautiful videos, like splicing in like their favorite like BTS member with like scenes from a movie to create almost like a mini fan story using like music, and it's like beautiful and cinematic. That's skill. But you know what? It's not taken seriously. They don't talk about it on mainstream media, and so instead they're talking about some dude who like created some program or whatever. It's like, to me, it's part of this entire paradigm of like what a serious or real legit entrepreneur, occultist, whatever is supposed to look like. And I will never fit into that. And perhaps people who are watching this, like, and people who are part of your group also kind of relate to this. It's this feeling of like, but I'm not naturally interested in those things. I like things that they actually look down upon. And if that's the case, you guys are in the best position possible, because literally all you need to do is just be grumpy and be like, I'm not changing, and just stand there, and sooner or later at least one other person's going to show up and be like, I don't like what they're doing either. That's boring. God, can they please, like, I don't know, put on a filter like when they make a video or something. So it's like witchcraft to me as an atheist, as somebody who is a skeptic naturally, I still don't believe in spirits. Even though I work with Hecate, even though I do astrology magic, even though I technically work with demons, I'm still an atheist. And people are just like, how can you, they get so offended. How can you be an atheist and still call yourself a witch. And it's like, I explain it in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I see witchcraft as it's the birthright of every human being. There was a time when our ancestors, and you're from the Ukraine, for a very long time, your ancestors and Slavic people, they were doing witchcraft as a natural everyday part of life. They didn't call it witchcraft.
Right. This is what attracted, like, to me, witchcraft, and I know there's definitions and I don't know all the definitions, but for me, it's talking to nature. It's a conversation, an active conversation to nature. This is where it begins with me. And then, it expands from there, like the process, what you mentioned, the three processes. I mean, it's in the world. There's nowhere. I don't understand why. Also, like, just, I guess, even the word, which is maybe it's coming from, all the witch hunts that happen, in the not so far away history, but I'm sure that, like, makes you, and right away it's people associated with, like, dark magic or black magic, which I don't even like the use of the word black or the dark. It's not even the right word. Like, maybe say dance, I don't know, dance versus light instead of black and white. It's not really all that. Doesn't sit right with me anyway. But that's something else entirely. But yeah, like, magic, like, the world is magic, and witchcraft is just a path to experience magic. That's what it is in a broad sense. That's what it is to me.
If people feel uncomfortable calling it magic, call it religion. If you don't feel comfortable calling it religion, call it psychology. If you don't feel comfortable calling it psychology, call it philosophy. If you don't feel, who cares? There's different vocabulary focusing on different parts of the elephant, but it's the same elephant. So this is the reason why I stopped being such a flagrant atheist, being such like I read Sam Harris's book. He's a really big atheist. I read his book, I think it's called Letters to a Christian Nation. And that book radicalized me when I was a teenager, because it basically said even moderate Christians are aiding the extremists. It's this idea of, like, just being part of the crew, you're supporting the extremists of your group. Finally, I figured out that there's something called nuance. And I was able to, as I grew older and I became more mature, to realize that this prejudice that I had against certain religions was prejudice. And again, like, the education of actually talking to people who know their stuff, and realizing that, first of all, most people who are doing any religion, any magic practice, any philosophy, any psychology, whatever, most people, to be honest, they're just kind of like, they like it, but if they had to, they would change. They're kind of more in it because they want to hang out and socialize and just do it because it's kind of whatever. There's a couple of extremists, and there's a couple of, like, really amazing, like, really deep, like, divers into the thing. But it's, to me, when I realized that once you talk to the people who are, like, really deep diving into a subject, whether it's business or magic or anything like that, and then the conversation completely changes. And I was like, well, we're talking all about the same thing. And the YouTube channel, I have a feeling, for me, the book that I wrote, which is coming out next year, it starts off about ancestors. And I think a lot of Americans, well, obviously, many Americans don't know who their ancestors were because they were forcibly enslaved. But also, even Americans who didn't come over as slaves, they've kind of lost their family legacy, because it's sort of like Americans have this thing where it's like the past is sort of like kind of new, versus I think in Europe, there's a stronger idea of like, oh, this castle is 5,000 years old. Right. In America, it's like, oh, this building is 300 years old, 300, 5,000. So I wonder if people in America have lost this idea of, like, ancestry. And also, America's kind of unique in that it's like a made-up nation, unless you're indigenous, you're not really American. So it's sort of like, what do we do? So in that sort of sense too, I think anybody who lives in America, even if I wasn't born in America, but I've lived here long enough so that I feel as though obviously the culture of America is in me and stuff. So anybody who's lived long enough time in America, I think, has that as well. And like America's part of like your ancestry now. Mm-hmm. What do we do with that? What do we do with our blood ancestors? What do we do with our cultural ancestors? What do we do with our, I guess, nation and what all different sorts of ancestors? Because that is going to inform your magic. And so the book, we start off with ancestry, and then from ancestry we move into what good ritual looks like. And hint, Korean pop music. If you want to see a good magic ritual, look at K-pop. And then we go into food and how feminine arts of cooking and eating are considered to be not very magical, but they're super magical. And then we go into cryptocurrency, AI, Metaverse, and then finally we go into artificial intelligence and the idea of what spirit work looks like when we have man-made things, people going to the moon. NASA wants to go to the moon by 2024, wants to go to Mars, wants to go and terraform Mars because we're destroying Earth. What happens when we can no longer have white sage? What happens when we can no longer have quartz crystals, when all the everything on Earth is depleted? What are we going to do? And the book is suggesting, well, that's when you do magic in the metaverse. How's it going to look like? Is the magic going to be the same? Who knows? But this is a conjecture. This is sort of like hypothesis. It's a way to sort of like try to figure out like, how do we do magic that is contextual? Because Jack Grail, one of the people that I've interviewed several times on my YouTube channel, I love him as a magic person. He talked about how magicians in the past, they were renegades. Today, being a witch is like cool and edgy and you want to tell everybody. Back then, you didn't tell shit. You didn't tell anybody anything because you would get murdered. Even if you were like, like a working magician, you didn't want the Roman authorities to know. You didn't want the local police to know. You get burned. Mm-hmm. But also, you wanted to do magic that worked, because if you didn't, then your clients wouldn't come back and you'd starve, because there's no insurance, there's no workers' comp, there's no unemployment checks for people doing illegal work, like being a working magician. So if you were a working magician back in the day, you better know your stuff, get results, and not get caught. And all your clients were going to be people who are going to be like, if you don't help me, I'm going to go to jail, lose my head. My husband is going to throw me out on the streets, have me starve and beg for food with my 5 children. I'm going to become a slave. Like, this was life or death.
Stakes were different, slightly.
Stakes were different. How is that what our ancestors used as magic for them to survive, just to like survive, right? And now people are just, I don't know, they're just like, I'm just going to drink this tea and that's, and I'm just like, okay, which is fine, but it's sort of like, how's that going to really affect your life in a way that's going to be high impact? And so the book is trying to talk about what it means to do high impact magic in a modern age. And I know that this book is not going to be, because it's so technology based, it's so based upon futurism, because that's the world we live in today. Everybody on Facebook complaining about, oh my God, all these TikTok witches, all these Instagram witches, how dare they? They're not. I'm just like, you're complaining about them on social media.
You can hear the world, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like you can go and talk to your friend over coffee and complain, but you're doing it on social media because you know the power of social media, and also because this is life. No one just goes to coffee and talk shit. You talk shit on the internet. This is everybody. So everybody complaining is like, they don't even realize they're doing the same exact thing these witches of Instagram, these TikTok witches are doing. Except these TikTok witches and witches of Instagram, they're just being more blatantly magic about it, right? They're just more blatantly saying, I'm going to try to do magic. I'm going to talk about my magic blatantly. Like a person, just like a person complaining on Facebook, that's a spell too. That's absolutely a spell. It's the same thing. So the fact that a lot of, and they're older witches, are complaining on Facebook and not realizing that it's the same thing. I realize that magic, a lot of magic that is happening today that I don't feel connected to anymore. And one of the reasons why I'm so glad I was called out about having more diverse guests is that I realized that a lot of the magic is kind of in this box of what magic should look like. The crystals, the incense, there's a certain look, a feel, a box of what magic is. But as soon as you put technology into it, as soon as you put artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, all of a sudden, people are just like, that's not magic. All of a sudden, people are just like, how can that be magic? Because you're not interacting with nature. And then to that, I would say, but we're human beings are nature, and we created the internet. So if we're nature, we're as natural as it gets, and we created something, then the internet is just as natural. Oh no, but plastics aren't natural. Plastics and pollution are not natural. Who created it? People, natural things created this thing. So are you saying that these natural things created this thing that's why is it considered unnatural? Because your idea of nature is this beautiful sunset, this little deer eating some leaves. Nature is cruel.
Oh yeah.
Nature is brutal. Nature wants to kill you. Nature smells. Nature is just, I don't want to be in nature. But people have a romantic idea of nature, the same way that we have a romantic idea about a woman's body. We want nature the way that we want a woman as a virgin. We want nature that's been untouched. We want nature that is pure, virgin land, untouched by the hand, unfingered by a man's hand, a human's hand. The same way we want a girl. We want a woman that isn't messy, isn't smelly. Ooh, she's bleeding. Oh, she's had sex. Oh, it's this idea of like, oh, she's had trauma. This land has been polluted. This woman has gone through assault, which so many women have gone through. Right. And now she's less valuable, just like this land is no longer natural because it has plastics on it. It's like, no wonder. And the people who are talking about nature in such a way like, oh, plastics and pollution, that's like not nature and stuff. It's like, it's the same mentality that makes us judge women based upon this entire like Madonna whore like dichotomy as well. Mm-hmm. So again, it's like the people complaining about witches of Instagram and TikTok witches and doing it on social media. And the people complaining about witchcraft being about nature and about plastics being pollution, not being natural, and not realizing the connection to the way that we talk about women's bodies and the way that we treat women. It's like that thing. And to me personally, I was just like, that's not the sort of magic that I like to do or would like to be part of. So the book is going to also, it has like 60 unique illustrations to go. So it's going to be like a grimoire. It's going to be, the illustrations go with the actual like words. So it's and there's occult symbology, but it's mixed in with East Asian things, especially Korean style stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is just, again, a very long-winded way of me saying just basically like, I got really grumpy. Somebody just basically dropped a book contract onto my lap. They paid me 40% extra. And I said, cool. And then I wrote the book. A talented illustrator was brought on and she illustrated the book. And then it went to press like 2 days ago. And then because it's being printed in China and it takes months to take hardcover books, because they're sending like 5,000 like actual hardcover books to like all these different ports on like these like shipping containers. Amazing. Who knows, like it's going to take months to get to like Australia and like London and like New York and stuff. But it's like, this is what happens when you're just grumpy and you just kind of like, you're just like, whatever, I'm tired. I just don't want to like do something that just makes me more tired and stuff. So I feel as though like I'm making it sound to your audience like this is just like not that fun or whatever and stuff. I guess I just want to like offer an alternative to the really like rah rah, and ooh, cryptocurrency and
Well,
ooh, like this and stuff.
this is first of all, your book sounds fascinating, but everything you
Thank you.
described, yeah, and I can't wait to see it. It's really it's and you touch on so many like real subjects. But I don't see how nature, like I love going into, I have to go into nature, and it's fine to do magic there, but I understand how it's any less magical than doing magic on the blockchain. Like how is that? It is magic. I mean, when you encrypt something, or when you write a code, and when you write something, you are doing magic. I mean, right there, it's a spell. You're putting a spell on something, basically.
Oh my God, yes.
Using your language, spellbound. Yeah, so this is what you're doing. And it's and I understand totally what you're saying. It's like being grumpy and this and that, or like, no matter what you do, I mean, I'm sure the book is wonderful and it's amazing, but it's like, I'm sure not every second of it you were just like in ecstatic joy writing it. You have to eat the shit sandwich, with any sort of good work that you even want to do. It's just
Yeah, and I don't like the story. I don't like the narrative people give, especially to women, of this like really just like ecstatic, joyful, like just always positive, or like this melodramatic, this trying to use your pain as almost like performative pain. I don't like that either. I don't like either of those narratives, because it just portrays the experience that I think a lot of us in feminine bodies, like, we know is bullshit, that we know is more nuanced, where we don't have to perform. We don't have to perform. We don't have to be super like la la purple dress, twirly twirly hippy dippy girl. And we don't have to be like performative pain drama queen either. We can just be like, yeah, I'm just grumpy, and I just nap a lot, but I did my human design, and I did my astrology, and I did my YouTube thing for 4 or 5 years, and like whatever. And then I don't have a business plan, and it just, I did what I had to do. And then it just kind of all worked out because I wasn't performing.
right.
And I think the more that we see the alternative narrative, that we don't have to perform, we don't have to perform in bed, we don't have to fake orgasms, we don't have to like do anything. We don't have to perform as women. We don't have to perform as entrepreneurs. We don't have to perform as business people. We don't have to perform as human beings. The more, and this isn't even about like showing, I heard something really, really wonderful from Christo, who's just like, never met him, but he's sort of like my next Steve Jobs, like, I'm just like, oh, hi. So like Christo, he was talking about how like during the heyday of Clubhouse, people would go into these rooms and they would just trauma dump. They would just talk about traumatic things. It was like a therapy session. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how that is very triggering, and that's very upsetting to people who are listening, and it's very burdensome. Like, it feels uncomfortable, it's heavy. People do that all the time, right? They trauma dump. What you're doing is you're showing the wound, you're showing the blood, you're saying, look at me bleed. They want to be seen. This is not appropriate boundaries for a lot of people, because a lot of people have their own shit to deal with. Instead of showing that you're bleeding, perhaps it's more constructive for everyone involved to show the scar and to say, this is a scar, this is how I got it, and this is what I learned from it. Mm-hmm. So the narrative, trying to shift it more into that, to make it less about the, even though in the book I talk about how dramatic rituals are, like, they work great. Like, you look at K-pop dances and performances, and they're so melodramatic. But it's this idea of, you can show a scar, you can show realness, and it can be just as effective, if not more, because it's sustainable, because it's something that people can actually relate to, versus people wanting to back away from, you're like, whoa, you're bleeding, or having people be unfairly traumatized, or this idea of like, you need to be super authentic, and people just kind of took it too far, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Totally took it too far. It's like, it was again, like, I don't remember the name, but the the men use this like, it's like, you know who's authentic? My toddler is authentic. She's authentic. Like when I show up to work, do you want authentic me, or do you want me trying to give my, not best performance, but my best effort, you know, bring my best self forward, right? You don't want a toddler. I don't want, you know, a surgeon who comes to do my surgery being authentic, his authentic self, because he had a fight with his spouse that morning. I want the best surgeon who's going to come and to perform surgery on me.
Exactly. And it's this idea of like, one of the things that I discuss in the book is about how you can hold like two different ideas at the same time. So for example, I'm an atheist and I'm a witch. How's that possible? Well, it turns out that when you're in a ritual, when I'm working with this, let's say, for instance, if I'm working with a demon, while I'm doing that 1 hour ritual, 30-minute ritual, 20-minute ritual, for those 20 minutes, that hour, I believe 100%. And Phil Hine, who I interviewed on my YouTube channel and who I think is an amazing occultist, great philosopher, I asked him, I'm an atheist, can I still be a witch? And he was like, well, can a movie that you know is fake, because you see the first 30 seconds written by, produced by, starring, you know it's fake. And yet, can you say that a movie can change you? Can you say a movie can change the course of your life? And of course it can. We've all seen movies that have deeply affected us, made us cry, affected our art, made us create art because of that movie, whatever. And yet we knew it was fake. But while we were in the movie theater, we suspended our disbelief. And because we suspended our disbelief, we were able to get the full experience. For me, The Matrix, that movie, really changed my life. It introduced me to a whole new way of thinking. What if I had gone to the theater and been like, that's Keanu Reeves, that's not Neo, you know? What if I had been like, oh, that's just CGI, oh, that's, you know? Then I would have completely missed the whole point of the movie. I wouldn't have had a good time. And ultimately, I wouldn't have changed as a person. I wouldn't have evolved as a person. I would have calcified. I would have stayed the same. Magic's the same. For me, while I'm doing the ritual, it's like I'm watching that movie. And I believe, but then as soon as I'm done with the ritual, I blow out the candle, I go back to being an atheist who doesn't believe at all. And it turns out, even if you don't, but people have this idea that you need to believe 100% of the time. You don't have to believe 100% of the time. Why? Again, you're not the person you were telling us about, who sometimes they want to go into a professional setting as a professional, not as a toddler. When you're with your parents, you're a different person. When you're with your spouse, you're a different person. When you're a parent, you're a different person. You can be different people with different perspectives based upon in fact, that's considered emotional intelligence. If you're a mother who acts like a child with your child, that's considered to be extremely emotionally damaging to the child. If you can't be a professional at work, then it's sort of like, hello, are you a mature, well-adjusted human? No. But why is it then that when it comes to things like belief and faith, which, to be honest, like, no one knows for sure, like, it's sort of like, you must, like, they grab you by the throat and they threaten you. You must believe 100% of the time or not at all. And it's like, how about just when I'm doing it, I can, and when I'm not, I don't. Like, is there a rule against it? No. And once I realized, oh, you don't have to identify as one or the other. You can just do it whenever you feel like it, which is how our ancestors did it. Our ancestors were too busy trying to survive to really consider, is this real or not? They were like, well, anything that helps, I will do it. You know, anything that helps me survive, I'll just do it, because, like, literally I'm like 2 meals away from like starvation. So they did it. And that's how our ancestors did it. And we're alive today because our ancestors survived enough so that we can, like, live in a world of internet and central air conditioning and the metaverse, the upcoming metaverse. So they must have done something right. So for me, it's sort of like these questions and these things that are being discussed right now in other fields other than spirituality are more interesting to bring into spirituality than just things that spiritual people talk about amongst themselves. Like, it's almost like inbreeding. at this point to me, because I didn't come from the spiritual world. I came from outside the world coming in. So for me, it's more interesting to bring in technology, science, philosophy. I actually talk about quantum mechanics and like the research of neuroscientists and sleep scientists about what happens to our brain and stuff, because it's like everything eventually gets explained in one way or another. So, you know, that saying that what's magic today, tomorrow is going to be science anyways, whatever. So it's like, whatever. So it's the conversation about all of these things. It's, I guess the publisher was just like, and this is another great thing, the publisher was just like, we don't want you to make it too complicated and all academic, so why don't you just write it and then we'll illustrate it and make it look really pretty. And I was like, done, you know. And that's what it really is about. It's this realization that magic and the occult was supposed to be the serious, academic, thick, dust-filled, tiny font book that like you fall asleep while you're reading it. And I was like, can't do that anymore. Like, I don't like to read those books. I have to because of my job, whatever. But I don't want to do that. I would rather read a picture book. I would rather read a web comic. To be perfect, I would rather do all these other things than to read supposed to be super magical simply because it appeals to a very select group of people who are used to that sort of, I would say, very poetic language versus the mass of people, the mainstream people who are not cool enough, according to these people, or who are just not sincere enough to wade through the poetry, so their so-called poetry of the words, the riddling of the words to go into the actual stuff. And that's another box that the occult and magic did. They decided that having things written in a way that's very confusing is a way that you can figure out who is and isn't a witch. And it's like, if you come from the premise that everyone is a witch, everyone's born a witch, everything that we do in magic, in life is magical, there's just no way around it. If everyone's already a witch, then that other stuff is just not necessary. Like, you don't need to make it more complicated than it really is. You can make it into a webcomic. You can make it into an illustrated book. You can make it into a book that, like, a teenage girl who like goes into Urban Outfitters, whatever, can pick up and read. And that's fine. And that's with any other topic, to be honest, like business, magic, spirituality, fashion, technology, whatever. This eyelash is like really just like going crazy right now.
I don't see it, but yeah, you're really good with like taking a pretty complex term and just really breaking it down in like small, understandable steps. Like you, like
thank you.
Yeah, as you did with the blockchain. So totally.
Thank you very much. I feel as though like the way that you let me just like go off on a tangent, I just took up a huge amount of your time. Thank you so much for like letting me just go on and on and on.
Honestly, I love listening to you talk. And it's because at first, like I thought we're just talking about the cryptocurrency and just, you know, like I have a list of questions, whatever. It's not, it's just, the world is so much more. So thank you so much for like talking about your book, for talking about like the topic of magic, how it's connected to, yeah, it's super interesting also to hear like the simile between, you know, nature and the women's bodies. It really, it's just so like so pertinent right now, honestly. And I think it's so important also to like bring women, you know, there's no contradiction, like you were explaining yourself, there's no contradiction between connection to land and being into the metaverse. Like, why is it like such a big deal? I don't understand. So this is what I think for all of us to embrace and open our minds, that it's no big deal. It's not a big diversion. You're not only doing magic on land and not doing magic when you're online. So it's bringing your whole self into both of these spheres and these worlds, the 3D and the, I don't know, what's the metaverse? It's going to be 4D or 3D. I don't even know what to call it.
I'll have to think about that. Yeah, because I think 4D and 5D are already taken by the new age crew. So
anyway, thank you so much, Chaweon. Like you've given us like a world of you opened up our eyes into a different world, I think, altogether. And it's been like super awesome talking to you.
thank you so much for having me.
And yeah, so I will include all the resources below the video. And until next time.